let's get started with the demo list then. So, demo knife. You get the box cutter, which is, I actually kind of like this. It's kind of a cool little weapon. You will probably use it with demo because you can run yourself out of ammo, and it's not terrible for stabbing little stuff. Yeah, it's still going in D tier. It's still a knife. You don't get any bonuses for it. You're only going to use it to either block or to kill trash Zeds. That being said, you're probably going to kill trash Zeds, although you can bash with this weapon extremely well. This weapon does a real good job at bashing stuff. 9mm pistol is also just going to go on C tier. It's the same reason as like demo or Berserker. It's like you're going to use it, but not always the best to use it. Alright, half a stick of dynamite. So half a stick of dynamite does really high damage. It's tied with doing the most amount of direct damage besides the Commando's frag grenade, and it has an extremely high stun chance. It also goes off instantly when you throw it at something and hit them. I mean, on one hand, it does do a lot of damage. It's nice for stunning things, especially like an enraged Scrake. You can stun them and usually get away from. On the other hand, I've seen so many demos blow themselves up with dynamite. And I've done it myself quite a few times too. So I'm going to put it in B tier. It's very much like demo. It's a risk-reward thing. Demo can do tons of damage, but they're kind of squishy. The grenade pistol is actually pretty ridiculously strong with upgrades. It weighs 4, which is the most out of any, well, I think it's tied with the most. Maybe it's not the most out of any of the starting weapons. And it gets an additional 4 weight with its full upgrade, so it's 8, which is a lot. But it does almost double in damage, and it shoots out, similar to a shotgun, shoots out 10 pellets that do 30 damage apiece. So if you hit with, it shoots out 7 pellets that do 10 impact damage and 30 explosive damage on hit. It also has a 1.5 meter explosion radius, and you actually can't hurt yourself with this thing, which is really good. It's definitely a weapon I'd recommend for new demos, just to hang on. It's actually a pretty good weapon for that. If you get swarmed by stuff, aim it at your feet, blow up all the stalkers, crawlers, whatever's trying to kill you. I'm gonna put this thing in A tier. I think it's actually really good, especially like I said, since you can't blow yourself up with it. Anything that you can't blow yourself up with is great. So let's talk about C4 then. C4 can do a ton of damage. It can't be upgraded at all, which is interesting. It's I think the only weapon that you can't upgrade at all, because it actually technically counts as equipment, similar to your welder or healer. But it has 820 damage on detonation with a 4 meter blast radius, and that's quite a lot. You do get more C4 the more you level up as well with demo. So to start out with, you only get, I believe, 3 things of C4, and then when you're fully upgraded, I think you get 8. It's not bad cost-wise to rebuy C4 either, given how much damage it actually does. But the C4 also does reduce damage if you chain them together. So you can't throw C4, blow it up, throw C4, blow it up, or throw a bunch of C4 and then blow them all up, have a ton of damage on him. I see C4 is a weapon that was added just to piss the Patriarch when he wants to heal. That is true. That is the one thing that it is really good at. You can stick C4 to the Patriarch, and when he runs off to go heal himself, you just blow him up. And it is really strong. It's also a really strong off-perk weapon if you take it with other classes, if you just want to have extra damage towards like flesh pounds. Definitely not like A or S tier. It's probably B or C tier. I would not recommend it for new players to use, though. It is very easy to kill yourself with. I think on the lower end of B tier is where I'm going to put C4. Like, it's pretty good. It does a job very well. It's just that job isn't always necessary. The other Tier 2 weapon is the Grenade Launcher. Now, the Grenade Launcher, this is the M32 Grenade Launcher, which is a single-shot grenade launcher. It weighs 6. It does 150 damage on direct impact, and then 225 damage on explosion. It has a an 8.5 meter explosion radius. That is not bad. It also has pretty good scaling too. At max level, it has 55% bonus damage. You can injure yourself with this weapon. It also has a detonation range as well, so the grenade will not go off within so many meters of yourself. I can't remember exactly what that is. But if you're shooting at something directly too close to you, it won't explode. It will just do the 150 impact damage, which is still a lot of impact damage. That being said, it is single shot. You have to reload each time. It does have the range. You can injure yourself with it. I think I'm going to put it at high B tier. It's still a pretty good option. And it fits into a lot of loadouts with its weight. So it's not bad by any means. It's also pretty good as an off-perk weapon too if you want to take it with other classes. So let's talk about the first tier 3 weapon, which we talked about with Berserker, which is the Pulverizer. And Pulverizer, I said, was really good on Berserker because it does a ton of damage. Well, it does even more damage on Demo since they get the bonus explosion damage. And it's a melee weapon, so you can block with it. It's still 6 weight, which limits you on what you can take. And it is an extremely risky weapon to be using on Demo. Like, yeah, for being able to block, that's great. Flesh Pound runs at you, block, get away, use whatever weapon. Cool. I've never got this thing to work. It's really good on Berserker. It's really bad on Demo. You probably don't want to use it on Demo. Mainly at 6 weight, Demo doesn't have a lot of good weapons that fit well together. At 6 weight, you do have a couple options. You can go with the M16, which limits how much damage you can actually do to big stuff in certain ways. You can go with the Grenade Launcher, which is a good alternative. You can go with the Grenade Pistol, which is also pretty good. But then you're going to be relying mostly on these and then only pulling this out every once in a while. You're going to use it similar to Berserker. At least the way that I use it on Berserker is use it to hit Flesh Pounds hard. That's its like one and main goal to do, or sometimes to clear a crowd. And then switch to whatever your other weapon is. You're going to be doing the same thing here, but usually you don't have to do that with Demo. Usually if you see a Fleshbound, well, I got a grenade launcher. Shoot it with a grenade launcher. It works just fine. Alright, let's talk about the Seal Squeal. That'll be our next tier 3 weapon we'll talk about. Now the Seal Squeal is probably one of my favorite weapons, if not my favorite weapon to use for fun stuff. That doesn't really equate to being good, as I've said before. So you get 5 shots in it. It doesn't hold that many extra rounds. They did buff that, so it does hold more rounds now, which is nice. And it does do more damage now, which is also nice. It does 125 direct damage when you hit something with it, and then 250 damage on the explosion. The explosion has a 6-meter radius with some fall off on it, of course. You can shoot this thing reasonably fast. The harpoons stick into enemies and pin them to walls, so you can use them kind of as mines. Your secondary fire is to set the mines off. And it has decent scaling too. 15%, 30% bonus damage is nice. That being said, this gun is not the best for every situation. It really isn't. There's plenty of times where I've ran out of ammo with it and wish that I had something else. You can hurt yourself with it pretty easily because you might forget about the harpoons, or you might shoot them at your feet to clear off small things and be willing to sacrifice a little bit of health to do that. It is, like I said, it's probably my favorite weapon in terms of how fun it is. It's super fun to use and I love it to death, but it's still not way great overall in practice. Usually you run out of ammo with it, even now that they buffed the amount of ammo that you get. So I think I'm going to put this thing at high C tier. Like, super fun. It also weighs a lot. That should be another thing I say, because it weighs 7 with 2 upgrades. That's 9. I don't think that's necessarily worth it. Let's talk about the M16. The M16 I gave A tier with Commando, because it is quite good with Commando. And it's also quite good with Demo. The grenade launcher is okay. It's pretty much the same as the smaller grenade launcher. It doesn't scale as well, though. And it doesn't have the same explosion radius. I think it's smaller. Yeah, so the impact of the projectile does 230 damage. The explosion does 230 damage. And it has a 5-meter explosion radius. So yes, quite a bit smaller radius overall. That being said, it does have a machine gun attached to it, and Demo doesn't have the best way of clearing out small Zeds, especially if they get close to them. Certain weapons certainly can. The grenade pistol can. The Seal Squeal kind of can, but it's not bad. M16 is worse in Demo, I think. I remember correctly, the bullet damage doesn't scale with Demo at all. That is true. Bullet damage does not scale with Demo at all. Explosion damage does, same with reload speed does not scale with the assault rifle part of it. But the reload on the grenade does, if you're going with reload speed with the grenade. That being said, it is one of the best, well, it's not necessarily one of the best anymore, but it was one of the best options for Demo for quite a while, just because you needed something to keep yourself safe. And it's still pretty good at that. There are some better weapons than that, though. I think I'm going to put this at low A tier. It sits at a nice weight, too. It goes well with a lot of other weapons. So, machine gun part is kind of a nice thing, and the grenade launcher, it kind of does feel like an upgrade from the grenade launcher since they weigh the same, I believe. But then it's like, okay, you're trading off raw damage and explosion radius for a little bit more utility for yourself. I can kind of value that a little bit more, but I could see somebody switching places with these two. And then we got the Kaboom Stick, so do we really need to... Alright, I'll talk about the Kaboom Stick, but this thing is ridiculously good. I love that they've added this gun into the game. And this gives Demo so many options right now. So, where the double barrel did 25 damage per pellet and shot 10 pellets, this one also shoots 10 pellets, but it does 15 damage per shot on direct impact, and then another 38 damage on the explosion of the pellets. So if you hit something with just one barrel of this at close range, you are doing 530 damage to it. And with both barrels, you're doing 1,060 damage. That is unupgraded. That is dumb. That is a dumb amount of damage that you can deal to something. Especially since you're more than likely going to be running some perk to get you more demo damage, so it's going to be higher than that. And it scales actually even better than the double barrel does, going up to a total of 30% increased damage, which doesn't sound like too much, but that's actually like an additional, I think, 400-ish damage that you're getting with upgrades of this thing. And it weighs 6 regularly. It weighs 6. That fits into so many categories. Like not so many categories. It fits into so many loadouts. You can put this thing with any other demo weapon, and it does so well. Also, interestingly, I didn't know this until recently, but the support's tight choke ability actually works with this, making it not spread out as much, which is kind of cool. Also, you can do the same thing that you can with the double barrel, and that is jump into the air, fire both barrels, and send yourself flying backwards. This gives Demo even more mobility. Well, the Demo doesn't have any mobility, so this actually gives them mobility. So it has utility for that. It does a ridiculous amount of damage. Its range kind of sucks. You can't shoot anything past, medium range with this. But who cares? Once anything gets inside of your range, that is very scary for whatever just stepped into your range. Alright, let's talk about the Blunderbuss again. So, Blunderbuss. Now we can talk about its main rate of fire, or its main fire. Shoots out a cannonball, does 300 damage on direct impact, 250 damage on the explosion, has a 7 meter radius, which is pretty high. And its secondary fire fires out 10 pellets that do 50 damage apiece. These count as shrapnel that can bounce twice. So, this gun is also really fun on this class too. You can blow yourself up pretty easily with this weapon on Demo though. So keep that in mind. You also get a small magazine size. You only get 3. The cannonball is only really good at medium range. Long range is kind of hard to hit, and close range you don't want to use it so much because you can blow yourself up with it. I think I'm going to put the Blunderbuss in A tier. I think it goes right into A tier right away. It's not bad. Not something I'd recommend to new demos to use, similar to like the C4 or the Seal Squeal, but for experienced demos, it's pretty good. Next one up is the Seeker 6. So the Seeker 6 is another one of those kind of strange weapons. It actually looks pretty good on paper. It does 125 damage on direct impact, 160 damage on explosion, and it has a 3.5 meter explosion radius, which is pretty small. It's still not bad though, because you can kind of aim for the legs and stuff and blow them up. It holds 6 shots. You can either fire it from a standard mode, just firing it one rocket at a time, or you can have a lock-on mode where it can lock on to multiple enemies. You can still fire one rocket at a time, because sometimes the lock-on mode doesn't work once enemies are partially behind cover or at such a long range. Its upgrade gives it 12.5% more damage, which isn't a whole ton, especially since it doesn't have a whole ton of damage. That being said, you can do quite a bit of damage per second with this weapon, and one thing it does actually really well is stack up the nuked ability, or Destroyer of Worlds, whatever it's called, the one that sends out the nukes. Because you can potentially set off 6 nukes, potentially more if you have a commando that can extend it long enough to where you can reload and then fire another 6 shots or so. 9 weight goes up to 10, does heavily limit you as to what you can take. You can also just keep it at 9. I recommend that you do, because then you can still use like the Kaboom Stick, the M16, stuff like that. Overall, it's not bad at anything, but it's not great at anything either. So I'm going to put this right into B tier as well. Like, not a bad option, not a great option, but not a bad option, you know? Alright, RPG. We're going to put the RPG right into S tier. Well, it does 150 impact damage and then 750 explosive damage. It also technically does another 150 backblast damage. So anything directly behind you, you can kill too. I've done that in a couple videos where I've killed the boss that way. It's kind of funny. I mean, the big disadvantage is you're putting your back to whatever you're trying to fight. So it's not really a practical means, but it is kind of nice if a stalker sneaks up behind you. You don't notice it and you're firing at a flesh pound or something. But yeah, 9, it has a 4 meter rocket radius, as a 3 meter backblast radius, so you can hit anything behind you in 3 meters in kind of a cone shape, which is sort of funny too. Its upgrade gives it 10% bonus damage and 1 more weight, so it goes up to 10. Once again, you don't need to upgrade this weapon. In fact, I would recommend against it. So yeah, RPG, probably S tier. It's very good. It's also a very good off-perk weapon if you want to take it with another class. I've taken this with Medic plenty of times, Commando a couple times. I feel like I've taken it with SWAT a couple times too. Not entirely sure about that, but it's a pretty good weapon. Alright, and we only have one more tier 4 weapon, and that is the Husk Cannon. Now, the Husk Cannon, I believe, is actually better on Firebug than it is on Demo. Some people don't. There are plenty of people that don't agree with that and think that it's a better weapon on Demo, and I can understand why. It weighs 8. It has a lot of very strange numbers. It can be doing between 100 damage and 500 damage depending on how long you charge it up. It also does damage over time, and it has an explosion radius that deals fire damage and deals damage over time because it's fire, but also generally has high knockback as well. So it can also cause ground fires, which do damage over time as well. And its one upgrade gives it 10% more damage. That is okay. Goes up to 9 weight, which is also okay. You can still take other weapons with it. I found that the best way to actually use this on Demo is not to charge it up very often. Sometimes I will, but just to rapidly spam fire it. It does like 100 damage with fire damage is pretty strong, at least for killing trash Zeds with it. You also can't hurt yourself with it, or at least not easily. I think you can when it's charged up to a certain extent. Then you do a little bit of damage to yourself. But it's very good at clearing small things away from you quickly, and clearing out small things before they get to you. With its full charge thing, it does have the slower travel time. I don't think it's as useful as like the RPG in most situations, at least where you want to, whether either you want an RPG or you want the charge. It's good for those middle situations where you kind of want both, where the charge can be useful and the rapid fire can be useful. So I think it's also going to be an A tier. Let's see, this is the M32 Grenade Launcher. I always get these mixed up. Whenever I get a daily task, I'm like, oh, Grenade Launcher. I'll just get this Grenade Launcher. And half the time it's this one. This one has Well, okay, it weighs 9. It's a tier 5 weapon, so you can't upgrade it. It does 150 damage on direct impact and 225 damage on explosion. It has an 8.5 meter explosion radius. And this thing's very much like the regular grenade launcher, except for that you get 6 of them before you have to reload. That being said, it takes about as much time to reload these 6 as it does to reload about 6 shots with this. Not quite. I think this one's actually a little bit quicker. I don't really find myself taking this weapon very much. I don't find it as useful as just the regular grenade launcher, in my opinion. It's kind of disappointing because it has a really long reload animation. You can stop the reload animation whenever you want, just, you know, have however many rounds you've reloaded, which isn't bad. It does do a decent amount of damage and a really high amount of damage per second. Its burst damage potential is there, but that's like the main thing it's used for. It's just high amount of burst damage, then it kind of just peters out and you have to crank the thing up, reload it, and go back to it. It seems like a cool gun, it's not that useful in my opinion. I'm gonna put it probably on the low end of B tier. I don't know if it's quite C tier, because it does have that huge amount of burst damage you can do. Does still have a big explosion radius, does clear crowds very easily. But everything else it doesn't feel super great with. So I think this is where I'm gonna put all of the demo weapons. I think that seems good.